Hello, in this video we're going to talk about the projected mode of APDL, the what if function, and a little bit about the legality report on the trip sheet view. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the trip view here. This is the trip view for the trip that I flew today. Now for this video, the projected mode is a live function of APDL, and for that reason I'll not be able to show live interaction with that as it happens. So I'll be putting up a couple of screenshots as I took throughout the day as I was flying as projected mode was happening. So the first shot here we have was as of 3 p.m. You can see on the duty time, that's before my report time on this day, and both of the flights are open. They have not been completed and closed out as of yet. If we look at the trip view, if we look at the trip sheet on the legality report here by tapping on this little report icon, we'll get the trip sheet shown to us here. We'll just briefly go over the trip sheet. We have the trip number and the date at the top left. On the left side of the report we have the scheduled and actual times, and then over to the right in the square we have the projected section, and we'll get to that in a moment. So first along the side here, since this date, the flights on this date have not taken place yet, they are all scheduled numbers at this point as we go through the day, and a portion of the flights have been flown and a portion of the flights are still pending to be flown. The ones that have been flown will change to actual values, while the remaining flights will still show scheduled values. So we have rest up here at the top, duty times, and then the flight duty period, just as we usually see on the trip view. So coming down to the data here, we have the flight numbers to the left, departure and destinations. The SA column shows which flights are displayed in scheduled times and which are actual. Then we have our out and in, block time, and ground time. The ground time is not displayed on the trip view, but this shows the time between the block in and the block out time of the following flight. Then below that we have the flight time and the flight duty period ending time. Now on the left side here, that's all scheduled. Over to the right, we have exactly the same data, except this is after APDL has processed and what it projects will likely happen or may actually happen different from the scheduled times on the left side of the report. So the same things across the top here: duty period, flight duty period, rest, all of that still projected in this case, or in this case it's still scheduled because there have been no reasons for us to suspect a change. Coming down we have the PA column. This shows if it is a projected time or if it is actual at this point, which, as we said earlier, if you've already flown the flight, it will be actual and the P indicates projected. And then we have out, in, block, and ground time as well. Down here in the alert section, we do not have any alerts. We don't have any projected alerts. And then we have a graph similar to what you'll see on the legality page that will be covered in a different video that shows our flight duty period, scheduled times, what we're legal to do, what we can do with an extension. Same thing for the flight time. So in the second screenshot here, I want to show the time on the phone here is 4:37 p.m. now, which is after the scheduled departure time, which was 4:10 p.m. So we can see that 4:37 matches the orange value here for an out time of 16:37 departing from Lexington. Now what APDL has done here is it has predicted that, since I have not entered an actual out time for this flight, and it knows based on my iOS device time that we are beyond the scheduled departure time, APDL expects that that means that this flight is delayed since it doesn't have an out time. If we were to depart immediately, right now, exactly at 16:37, APDL is saying if we depart right now, according to the scheduled block time, our arrival time would be 17:54. According to our minimum ground turn time, which is set in our settings page, which we'll look at in a second, the earliest we could possibly depart from Charlotte to go to Chattanooga on the following leg would be 18:24. If we add the scheduled block time to that, we would get 19:39 arrival into Chattanooga. Now, any value that's displayed here on our trip view in orange is a projected value. Now we also see our flight duty period time here ending at 1939 in Charlotte time zone, which is the same as Chattanooga in this case. So that also has been updated to reflect our projected times. We do have an update in the works right now that'll be released on a later update to APDL that will display the duty times, flight duty period times, as well as the rest time down here after this duty period in orange as well, as a result of the projected times mode. Now if we go look at the legality report on the trip sheet in projected mode, we'll now see differences on the projected section over to the right. We can see that the out time of flight 5078 is now 1637 compared to 1610 scheduled out time. Then we have that end time 1754 versus 1727. Now notice the ground time here. We have a 48-minute scheduled ground turn. However, we're showing only 30 minutes in the projected column. Reason for that is we have a setting in the settings of in the airline settings of APDL, very bottom of the page, that allows you to set your minimum ground turn time. And that's a setting that you should put in whatever your realistic minimum turn time is on the ground if you're behind schedule and you're trying to catch up and make up some time throughout the day. Projected mode will use that value to determine the earliest possible realistic time that you could potentially get out on any subsequent leg and attempt to make up some time. So if we continue to look through this list here, we can see our flight time has not changed because we have not told it that there's any change in our block time. However, the flight duty period ending time is later in the day. Rather than being 1930 local, it's now 1939 local. And the reason that it's only 9 minutes later, even though we were delayed by 27 minutes departing from Lexington, is that the ground time has been shortened. So we can also see here that the flight duty period graph at the bottom is increased to 4 hours and 14 minutes, and it shows in orange to show that that is a projected value. Now if we go back to the trip view and we suppose that we have more than 2 legs in this day, and as a result of long ground turn times originally scheduled and actually turning the airplane and the minimum turn time on each leg, that we were able to get back on the schedule for the, say, the last leg of the day. The last leg of the day on the trip view would not be shown in orange colors. That would indicate that those are the original scheduled values for that flight, and that's an indication that you can, that APDL is giving you an indication that you could potentially make up enough time to get back on the original schedule for that flight. Now, as I said, I had not entered in an actual departure time for departing from Lexington at this point. I like to enter my times after I land. However, if you like to enter your times after takeoff or after pushback or whenever you find appropriate to do that, the actual time that you enter will be reflected here in a white color instead of the gray color, and it will tell APDL that you're not delayed, or maybe you were delayed a few minutes, but this was your actual departure time, and APDL will, if necessary, remain in projected mode for the landing times, but it will adjust the times subsequently for the subsequent legs in the day according to the actual time that you've entered rather than the current time, which it only does if it does not have an out time. So that concludes the automatic portion of projected mode in APDL. Projected mode is also used in conjunction with the what if function in APDL. Continue on with the next video where we'll talk about what if mode and projected mode as it applies to what if.